Hey everybody, it's Mr. Gale. Okay, we're going to do a really quick run through of all the different things we need to know about factoring quadratics. So we've got through the quadratic equation, we've done quite a bit of that, but we haven't really focused too much on what we need to do to find out what the, I guess sometimes we call them the x-intercepts, sometimes we call them the zeros, we call them the factors of the equation. Basically all we're talking about is where does the graph pass through the x-axis, so that where does it pass through the line of y equals 0. So that's many different ways of saying the exact same thing. So we're trying to factor this sucker, and we're going to look at the different types of equations and what we do in case we see one of them. We're going to start out right away with number one. Number one is everything's all good. Everything's all good is where you have an x squared plus 7x plus 12. This kind of thing is wonderful. What you have is no a value, or rather an a value of 1, because I don't see anything in front of that x squared. And so it's a really simple process of finding out what the factors are, because all I need to do, and you've probably done this before, is that I look at the equation a, b, and c, and I say what two numbers add up and give me the b value, and in this case the b value is 7, and those same numbers must also be able to be multiplied together and give me the c value. In this case that's 12. So 3 plus 4 is 7, and 3 times 4 is 12. I've got a winner. X plus 3 times x plus 4 is, now what I'm looking at here is the factored form of the equation. That's how you draw, that's how you write it out. Now what does it mean? Just so it's clear that if I said what are the factors are not, I will repeat, the factors are not 3 and 4, but rather if I was looking at the factors, what I'm trying to say is at what point, let me just try to write down here, if I'm looking at the equation, it'd be y equals x plus 3 times x plus 4. Okay. But what I really want to know is what are the factors. In other words, what happens when y is 0? In other words, here's my equation. Here's my graph. I got a graph, and I want to know. Here's my y equals. Ding 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 ding. This is my y equals 0 line, and what point does my graph pass through that line? And I know here I can say, well, if this times this is equal to 0, because y has to equal 0. Then either of those can be equal to 0. In other words, x plus 3 could equal to 0, or x plus 4 can equal to 0. And if I say that, I can rearrange the equation a little bit and say, well, then that means x equals negative 3, or x equals negative 4. Look at that carefully. Make sure you totally understand that. So what would that look like? Well, I'd have, say this was negative 3 and this was negative 4. I got a positive x squared, so I'm pointing upwards. It's going to have something that looks like, I guess, something like that. So that would be my two factors, my two x-intercepts, my two zeros. Okay, so let's move along, because obviously we're not always going to get a situation where everything's all good. It's going to get more complicated than that. So let's look at a situation where we say, what if there is an a value? An a value, but and this makes it slightly good, but it can get taken out. Hooray, hooray. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. I'll give you an example of that. 3x squared minus 6x minus 24, and I look at that and I go, oh no, I got an a, it's 3, but wait a minute, 3 goes into 6 and 24. I can take that 3 out and take it out of everything else, so let me do that. So I take the 3 out, outside of brackets, x squared minus, okay, 3 times 2 gives me, okay, good, and 3 times 8, so negative 8 brackets. So now I got this equation a little different, but I can ignore that 3 now and just look at that inside equation and do the exact same thing I did before. So what two numbers add together to give me negative 2, but multiplied gives me negative 8. And that might take a moment to think about, but then you go, wait a minute, no, I got it. It's 4 And wait a minute, no it's not. It's not 4. 4 doesn't work, but 2 does. 2 and negative 4. Perfect. So I have two factors, x plus 2 and x minus 4. So in other words, my factors in this case would be negative 2 and positive 4. Remember what we were talking about up here. So another situation where, let's just look at another one. 0.5 x squared plus 6.5 x. I should draw a line here so you can tell there are two different things here. Plus 21. Okay, so let me take this thing out. Okay, I'm going to take the 0.5 out. Does this work out for me? X squared, that means 0.5 times what gives me, I have to double it. 13x plus double it. 42. Awesome. Okay, does this work out for me? What added together gives me 13? And, oh, 6 times 7 is 42. 6 plus 7 is 30. Awesome. 0.3 times x plus 6 and x plus 7. I've got the factored form of my quadratic. Okay, so we pretty well got some ideas here. Now, what if I have now, there is an a, but it can't. What if I got an ugly situation? It can't get taken out. Oops, taken out. What do I do? What do I do? So let's look at a situation there. For example, maybe I should start up on a new, no, I'll start over here. Okay, so let's look at that. This is a big one. So let's give our whole page over here answer. So let's look up here. Okay, so 5x squared minus 7x plus 2, and I'm not going to be able to take anything out. 5 doesn't go into 7 or 2. It's ugly as hell. What do I do? What do I do? There are two methods, okay? So one is a funky one that you've never seen before, and the other one is one that maybe you've done in the past. So we're going to look at two methods. So two ways. Two ways to solve. So let's look at it. Method 1. Method 1. Now this is going to be a little weird. So I'm going to set something up here. And then I'm going to explain what I've just done. But watch very carefully. I'm going to go through it. Put this in white. I am first going to take my 5x squared and I'm going to make it a 5x. And I'm going to take the x out. Because 5x times x is 5x squared. 5x, x. Okay, good enough, good enough. I'm going to put an equal sign here, and then I'm going to put a little bar, and then I'm going to put my b, my minus 7x. Okay, alright, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And then, I'm even going to make it weirder. I'm going to make a cross multiplication thing going on. So here's what I'm trying to do. Now listen carefully, because once you figure this out, how to do this, it's actually pretty simple. And I actually find it to be the easiest way of going about this. But okay, so I've set this up where I've broken up my first term into the whole a value plus the x. So 5x and x. That's all I did. I just took 5x and x, and then I put the b over here, the entire b term, including the x. And so here's what I'm going to do. I want to have, say, okay, listen carefully. X times some number, so some number here, is going to equal a number here. And then 5x times a number here is going to equal some number here. And those two numbers have to be able to add up to negative 7x. Okay, so I got to think about this. 5 times what? Well, let me say, what would add up to give me a 7x? Well, 5x plus a 2x might work, or a minus 5x plus a minus 2x. So what if I try that? So this would be 5x times minus 1 would give me minus 5x. And x times what? X times, well, I have to get a 2 to get minus 7. I want this to be a 2x. So x times minus 2 gives me my thing to work out. It works. Okay, so that's great. And then you say, well, Mr. Gale, yeah, that's wonderful. What do I do with all this? What does all this mean? Okay, well, let me explain this real carefully. Now, watch what I do. Watch what I do. I take my equation, and I go, this whole thing, this first line, what do I got? I got a 5x and a minus 2. So I say, that's 5x minus 2. What about this one? It's x minus 1, isn't it? So I say x minus 1. So what is my factored form of the equation? Well, why, it's nothing more than 5x minus 2 times x minus 1. It's pretty neat, actually. It really works really well. And all I have to do is it's a little trial and error, because you got to go, okay, what do I got to do to get this thing to add up? It works really neat, and you get the whole thing out. You can see that this would be probably a little difficult to take care of otherwise. Okay, so you're asking me, but sir, that's actually still kind of complicated, and I would have to do it a few times to figure out. I understand. Don't worry about it. Method 2. Perhaps you are more used to this method. Method 2 is, so we'll call this the cross multiply method. Cross multiply. And what's this one? I call this the rip it apart method. Rip it apart is simply, okay, well, let me explain it by actually showing it. That'd be the easiest thing. So I got my 5x squared. I got something in the middle. I haven't said what it is yet. Now what I need to do is I need to rip apart my number. I need to rip apart my negative 7, so that the two numbers multiplied together, listen carefully, the two numbers, so I got my 7x has to be ripped apart into two parts, so that if those two numbers were multiplied together, they would give me the a value times the c value. So what's the a value? 2 times 5. So let me try to say this. Okay, so the parts of the 7x would have to become two numbers that could be multiplied together to give me 10. Well, in fact, actually 5 plus 2 is 7. So this one actually turned out to be pretty easy, although it's negative 7x, so I should be careful about that. So that would be a minus, what do I want to do here? I want to do a minus 2x minus a 5x. So you can see all I did is I took the 7x and I took it into two parts. I haven't changed anything, haven't made it more complicated, just simply move two pieces apart. Now why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Well, take a look at what happens. Okay, I'm going to combine these two guys together. So what can I say here? I could what do they share? What common factors do they share? Well, really nothing more than an x, really. So I go, oh, that's kind of depressing. Maybe this is not going to work out. But wait a minute. Give ourselves hope. Give ourselves hope. So this set right here is 5x squared minus 2x. I can say is x times 5x minus 2. Okay, and that's minus, what can I say here? What comes out of this part? Well, nothing actually. So it's minus, but I took a negative out. So that's minus times 5x, and I got to multiply this to get a positive. It has to be a negative. Well, that's pretty awesome. So what am I trying to say here? Well, that's almost, I know it says negative this, but it's actually negative, it's more like negative 1 times this. That's one way of looking at it. So because this is x times this minus 1 times this, I can actually rearrange this equation so that I can take both these, combine these factors together. So it's a 5x minus 2, and what am I multiplying by? Well, I'm multiplying by this minus this, the x minus the 1. Well, lo and behold, I have the exact same factored form that I had before. Awesome. This entirely worked out for me. Okay, so these are two methods of trying this. I'm going to do one more video to go over a few other different forms of the quadratic equation. Just make sure that we cover everything, but before we get there, I'm going to give you one here. Try this equation out on your own before you go to the next thing. So try using the two methods, this equation, 3x squared minus 13x minus 10. Try it out, see how it works. Maybe you can get it, and then start the next video.